Hi everybody, it's Christy Forsyth with Clarity by Christy, and this is class 3 of our You Are Magical series. And I'm excited to be back. I'm back in the office. My son has been released from the hospital today, and life is good. I'm excited to share some of the things that I've been learning, and I think it's just going to naturally spill over into this class, so I'm really excited about that. I hope that you guys are learning a lot through the classes that I'm sharing. Please let me know. We obviously still have more classes, and we are going to be expanding on some more ideas and expanding on the things that I intended to talk about. But please feel free to post questions in the group. Please feel free to jump in and have discussions. And I actually had somebody share something privately, individually with me, and just said I wasn't sure if I could share that in the group. And you're more than welcome to share your magic, to share what you're working on, to share what's going on, because I really intended this to be a discussion group, and it's helpful for us to be talking about stuff. And sometimes I think that I'm clear, but if you are posting about something, I can address it and we can all learn from it. So feel free to post questions. Feel free to share your thoughts on the daily card pulls that I'm sharing, on the questions that I post, things like that. So I'd love to check in with you guys, and feel free to comment in the video below. But how is the homework going? How are you doing with trying to have a meditation practice? Have you found yourself feeling stuck with things? Are you, and where are you getting stuck? How can I help with that? And I forgot to mention in the last video, one of the things that you can do for your meditation is actually the meditation that I shared in here with the connecting to your light. So that is 6 minutes out of your day. It's guided. You don't even have to think about it. So if you are needing a little bit of extra help and guidance, that's a great tool. I'm going to be posting, as we're diving into this a little bit more, I think next week, at least one more video, or one more meditation for us to use, so that it'll be something that you can download and be able to listen to. So we're going to be expanding on the meditation, so I'm hoping that you guys are finding some way to be connecting into a meditative state pretty regularly, pretty consistently. And the other homework was to get that magic log and to begin to just write down those things that seem magical to you, that seem like signs, seem like synchronicities, the things that seem like intuition, because sometimes looking back we're like, oh, that was how my intuition was trying to tell us. I think it was Jen Cutton in this group had said, actually I took a look at what the cards were saying one day, and I looked back retroactively at that, and I realized the message after I experienced the day. I realized the message that the cards were trying to deliver to me. So sometimes you can do that as well, and the magic book will allow for that. I'd love to see pictures. Did you guys get fancy books? I love fancy books. I love pretty books, books that feel special. So I'd love to see pictures of that, or books that have inspirational messages, or maybe you just got a plain notebook, and that's cool too. Sometimes I like things a little bit extra, but so I hope you guys are jumping on. I'm sorry about this not being consistently on a specific day. I think that now with Sawyer being home, I should be able to be here on the Wednesdays and recording the videos. So it might not be the exact time on the Wednesday before Clarity Connects, just because it'll be kind of a crazy week with news interviews and radio and stuff like that. But if I can do it that day, I'm going to do it that day. So we're going to be fitting these in, and thank you guys so much for all of your patience through this whole experience that I've had going on. So let me know what you're needing, or if something isn't connecting for you. You can feel free to private message me as well if it's something that you don't want to share with the group, because I know some people are more private, and that's okay too. So we left off on our last class, and I wanted to just quickly talk about intuitive tools. We're kind of already learning about that. I shared my short tarot class with the group, and I really recommend that you watch that, because this is all about how can I just begin to pull a daily card for myself. And that's something that I really recommend. Tarot is one of my favorite tools. because what it does is intuitive tools are like an extension of our intuition. They are, you know, a way for us to connect with signs and synchronicities, ways for our guides to put signs and synchronicities in front of us in an easier way. So tarot cards are great because they have so many symbols. They have so many things that are connecting with them. In fact, I'm forgetting that I didn't pull cards for our group for our class, so we should do that. But they have so many symbols on them, and it's a great way for our guides to deliver messages to us. So I love the tarot cards. To me, that is the one that I connect the most with. But there are so many tools. You know, you can use crystals. If, you know, all the crystals have different meanings and different things that they're helping with. And so, you know, you might ask yourself, what crystal am I feeling called to today? And that might tell you a little bit about what's going on with your energy field. Or you can use rune stones if you're familiar with those, or numerology or astrology. I mean, there are so many different tools. And these are all extensions of that intuition. So it's a way for us to connect, and without having to kind of do it just cold, without any cool tools. And it allows us to connect on a whole new level. What I love about tarot, you know, I do readings where I kind of do a mix of tarot and just like regular readings. And when I do those, what I love about the tarot cards is the cards are speaking to the person that's in front of me too. So the symbols maybe mean something to them as well. Or maybe sometimes it's just like a visual tool where people will look at that and it has more of an impact because they're seeing the visual. It's not just me saying it, and it doesn't just feel like me saying it. Suddenly there's this extension of the message that is right in front of them that they can't deny. So sometimes it helps to deliver the messages. So let's see, let's pull a couple of cards. So this one is the Knight of Fire, and I think that I pulled this for the Knight of Fire reverse. I think I pulled this recently for one of my recent videos, and this is saying like we need to like try to focus a little bit. Maybe we've been a little bit off focus. Maybe we haven't been as focused as we could be, so we really need to do that and connect with our leadership. You know, this is fire. I tend to connect a lot with work, so thinking about you know, how are you being a leader at work or in your life's work, and how can you connect more with that leadership, and how can you connect more with your creativity. And we'll do one more card and then we'll dive into the class. All right. Oh, this one is a good one too. So Three of Water, a celebration, a wedding, graduation, birth announcement, the need to have more fun. So how much fun are we having, right? And if you get invited to something that sounds like it might be kind of sort of fun, go. Make sure you go, because you're going to have a good time. So those are your cards for today. We're going to talk today about, I want to start with the law of attraction, because I don't know where everybody's at in terms of this. So I'm going to break it down into kind of the basics, just because I don't know if everybody has a basis for that. So the law of attraction is basically the idea that thoughts create things. And this is law. This is the way that it is. And so every time that we are thinking about things, we are putting out an energetic signal. And as we're putting out this energetic signal, we are helping to manifest those very things that we're thinking about. So I always like to say, like, be really mindful and be really careful about what you're putting your energy into. If you are sitting there worrying and worrying and worrying all the time, this is a signal that you are putting out there. And this is the kind of things that you're going to manifest. You're going to manifest maybe those things that you're worried about, or maybe lower vibrational things that aren't fun to have and experience in your life. And so you really want to be mindful about your signal that you're putting out to the universe. And we're going to just talk about how we can shape that and how we can grow with that. I'm going to be posting the handouts for this class. The other ones, I hope you guys found the other ones for class 1 and 2. They were together just because I sort of had a lot to pack in, and we ended up splitting that into 2 classes. So, you know, everything is made up of vibration, and so our thoughts are made up of vibration and are creating the things that we experience in our world. So you get what you think about, you know, and this is a really important idea, because you want to be more aware of where your thoughts are going. And so I always like to say, like, how often do we allow our thoughts to go into a more negative space? How often are we focused on the things that we don't want in our life? Because that tends to be human nature, right? As we go into this, like, oh, this really sucks, and we ruminate about it, and we spend a lot of time in it, and we go and we talk to our friends about it, and, you know, we all do it, and it's, sometimes we need to vent. But I think one thing that, if you guys are familiar with the Abraham Hicks books, one thing, I think it was in The Vortex, that they talked about that really, really stood out to me was, it was saying, be really mindful about even the kind of conversations that you're having with people. So if you are sitting down with your friends and all you guys do together, or what you spend a lot of time doing together, is bitching about stuff and you know, complaining about things that you have going on, or worrying about, or talking about what's going wrong in your life, even if you are not talking about your life, even if they are just doing all of that talking, simply by you sitting down and engaging in that conversation with them, sitting in that energy, whether that's over the phone, whether that's in person, whether that's via text, you are inviting that same energy into your life. So I want you to really consider that. So you could be the most positive person in the world, and you meet up with a friend and you have a conversation, and they're dumping all of their stuff on you. You are lowering your vibration, and you are inviting in lower vibrational experiences into your life. And so you want to be mindful of that. And what that recommended was to not try to stay in that vibration very long, to try to take a step back, to try to redirect the conversation, to, you know, like, let's figure out, is there a solution here? And if not, you know, can we work on releasing this and instead focusing on what it is that we want? Because you don't want to stay in that energy. I had a friend years ago that, and this was when I read this, so I had a friend, and we would meet up for coffee, and we would meet for hours, and all she would do the whole time was, and I love her, I absolutely love her, but the whole time was like just dump and dump and dump all of the stuff that she had going on, because she was really, really overwhelmed. And I would leave feeling so heavy and so overwhelmed. And I know you guys have had this experience. So many of you guys are empaths and have had this heaviness. And so when I heard that, I decided that I was going to change the dynamic, that I was not going to allow myself to sit in that energy for 3 hours anymore, because it was too much and it didn't feel good, and she felt better, but I didn't. And she was just manifesting more of the same, and I was manifesting from that energy as well. So the next time that we met up, I showed up and we sat down, and she started to go into it, and I started to try to redirect the conversation, and I started to say, okay, but what's going well for you right now? Or, okay, is there anything that you can do about this? And if not, can we release it? And again, let's come back to like what you want in your life, what you're excited about in your life, what you're grateful for in your life, and redirecting that. And it's not that we want to completely ignore the negative things that we have going on in our life, because I think we have to sit with some of that stuff too, and feel it out and explore it, and learn how to get comfortable in our pain and our discomfort as well. But we also don't want to live in that energy. I say visit that energy and don't live in that energy. And so I started to redirect that. And what was interesting is that time she ended up saying, you know, well, I got to get going. I'm in a hurry today. And our meeting lasted like maybe 25 minutes or whatever, because she could feel the shift in the energy, and it made her really uncomfortable. But what happened from that point on is, whenever we would meet, I kept reshaping that, and I kept reshaping that, and relatively quickly she got it. Without me needing to be direct about it, without me needing to have a conversation about it, she understood, and she started to feel what that felt like to have these kinds of conversations that were higher vibrational. And this particular person is really different now. She is so much more positive. She, you know, when I've come into a conversation with more negativity, she has turned that around for me now, and it's really amazing and powerful, and it was such a cool experience to see. And you can shift that within your relationships as well. Now, some people are not going to be as malleable and willing to make that change, so you might find yourself needing to disconnect from that relationship or find distance from that. That will naturally probably distance for you, because it's not a vibrational match. You know, I have some people in my life that are not really willing to redirect the conversation and are really stuck in that particular negative story for their own reasons and on their own journey. And so it's really difficult to do that. So I find that I need to limit my time and my energy that I'm putting into that until that can change, because I'm very mindful about what I'm putting my energy into. I think that we need to think about, from a law of attraction perspective, what our energetic diet is. So not just what we're eating and what we're putting into our body, but what we are consuming on all levels. What are you watching on TV? How are you spending your time? Are you using your time for things that are high vibrational, or are you using your time for things that are low vibrational? And you'll feel the difference, when Sawyer was in the hospital for whatever reason, and I think because probably I was having a hard time and my vibration was lower, I watched a couple of shows that would not normally be what I would watch. They were definitely more of like a negativity and a heaviness and things like that. Like I watched a thing about Ted Bundy because people fascinate me. They really do. But I just left that feeling like, ugh, that didn't feel good. That didn't feel like something that was a good use of my time. And so you want to just pay attention to how you feel after you do certain things, because when you can do things that are high vibrational, your vibration will be higher. And this is where we manifest, through the law of attraction, the things that we really want in our life, the good stuff, abundance and joy and peace and, good relationships and just anything that we're really wanting usually are the higher vibrational things. So in order for us to connect to that, we have to be a vibrational match. It's kind of like, you have to tune your radio to the right signal, to the right channel to be able to get those things. So a lot of times the things that we're waiting on, the things that we want, are within our energy field, but we have to become an energetic match to meet them. And in order to do that, we have to work on our vibration. We have to work on what it is that we're putting out there. I recommend being mindful, again, of your thoughts and your thinking. And, Jen says she's watching Growing Up Hip Hop. And that's awesome because, it depends on how you feel about that. I really like hip hop music because, to me, there's like a feeling of I'm powerful, I'm strong, and like they just have so much confidence, and I like the energy of that. And so for me personally, that kind of stuff gets me all pumped up. But for other people, they're just like, no, that's negativity. And so you have to feel how that feels for you. But anyway, where was I? Sorry guys, I got distracted. So you want to pay attention to your thoughts. You want to pay attention to your thinking and what that signal is that you're putting out there. And that starts with just being mindful. I think that it's helpful to start when you recognize that, when you recognize certain thought patterns, to just kind of acknowledge that and really quickly in your mind say cancel, clear, delete, or out loud you can say cancel, clear, delete, because it's kind of the intention that you are clearing that energy. You are being aware, and then you're clearing the energy that you're putting out there, because this will help to just scramble that signal that you're putting out there, so you're not putting that negativity out there. So be aware when you're worrying. Be aware when you're thinking negative things about yourself, when you're thinking negative things about other people. Be aware of what it is that you're putting out there. I think that there are a lot of scary things in this world, okay? And there's a lot of scary people. There's a lot of scary energies. There's a lot of scary things that can happen. And we can choose to focus on that. But understand, the more you focus on that, the more you will manifest and invite that into your experience. And so I'm very mindful when people start to want to have conversations with me about these kind of things, about their experiences with lower level negative entities. I'm not going to have that discussion for very long. I'm going to turn that conversation around because I choose to not put my energy into that. I choose to not feed that energy, and we want to be really mindful of that in our life. And so I'd love to hear some examples of maybe thoughts that you guys would like to work on that are patterns, maybe a consistent thought. One for me is I'm not enough. That tends to be a negative thought that I have. And so I've worked on a lot around that, and being enough and feeling comfortable in my own skin, and just thoughts around that. So being aware of the thoughts that you have consistently, and then what we want to do is we want to challenge those thoughts and flip it around. So we want to come up with the positive version of that. So I am enough in that situation would be the positive thought, and we want to really quickly set the intention that we're going to cancel, clear, delete that thought, and I am enough, and I can do this, and I'm completely capable of doing this. Those kind of thoughts are what we want to begin to invite into our experience. Or, you know, I don't know, something that comes to mind is just when I was traveling, my dad worries a lot about driving. So when I was traveling back and forth to the hospital, he's so worried about it, you know, and gets really stressed. And I get it, like that's a parent thing. And I probably will worry when my kids are driving too. But what he does is he really gets very worked up and he gets very worried about it. And my preference energetically would be instead that he say a prayer for me, that he send light, that he send angels, and that he set the intention that that drive will be easy, peaceful, and safe, because that is the kind of intention that I set for my drives. And then he let it go, because what we want to do is just set a positive intention and either let it go or focus on that positive intention for a long time. Because the more energy that you're putting into an intention, the more that you are manifesting that. So, you know, the more quickly you're able to stop negative thinking in its tracks, the more you're able to just cut that off and not manifest that. But the more that you're putting your focus and energy and awareness into something, the more you're able to manifest that. Now, you have to be a vibrational match, like I said. So you might be focusing and focusing and focusing and doing your work there with that, and it may not manifest, but that might be why, because you still need to do some either other thought work, or you need to do some work with your vibration so that you can be a vibrational match for that. And then there's also such thing, in my opinion, as divine timing as well. So sometimes we can't force the timing of that, and it will come in its own timing, in the universe's timing, in God's timing, whatever you want to call that. So the more that you can stay in this state of belief of I'm going to be successful, you know, my life is abundant, whatever it is that you're wanting to call in, you will pull that in. This is where, for those of you who have experienced a class with Jaron Kenyon, one of the things that he comes in to do is to teach on manifestation writing. And I'm going to give you the really short version of this, but manifestation writing is a great tool to use to focus the thoughts, to use the law of attraction to manifest the things that you want into your experience. And what you basically do is you sit down and you write about the things that you want to have happen in your life. My preference is to do that as a letter of gratitude to God. So I write it as though it's already happened, because from law of attraction standards, it is the universe will hear that and accept that as truth. So if you can talk about it as though it already is, this is a really powerful tool. And what I will do is I'll say, Dear God, I'm so grateful for, and I will go through the things that I'm looking to manifest into my life. And I might just do that as an intention for my day, and that might be a very quick letter. Or I might do that as something bigger, you know. So I'm so excited for Sawyer to be completely healed and better and feeling healthy and feeling happy and settling back into his routine. I might write something like that for my son. So allowing yourself to explore all of those things that you want. I find the writing to be a very helpful tool for focusing your thoughts, because you can sit there and you can visualize over and over and over again, and that is a way to manifest things. But I find the writing to be helpful because when you can sit down and write, it forces you to focus on it for longer periods of time. And so this is a great tool for us to begin our day with, or to end our day with, or whenever you can get to it, to sit down and to write out your manifestation letter, inviting those things into your experience, whether you're manifesting things for your day, whether you are consistently every day writing about something big that you're manifesting, however you want to do it. So let me know what questions you guys have for me about that, because I explained that kind of fast, but I find the manifestation writing to be a really helpful tool with that. And let me know if you have other questions about law of attraction that I didn't necessarily cover with that, or something that wasn't clear. You can also do verbal affirmations. So verbal affirmations would be, I was talking about changing your thoughts, right? So if we are talking about, okay, this negative thought that I'm having, this isn't serving me, I'm going to switch this into a more positive thought, you know? So I said initially, I'm not enough, right? And we switch that into I am enough. So that then becomes my positive affirmation. So what positive affirmations are, for those of you that aren't familiar, are just something that you're going to say out loud or in your head, and you're going to do that repetitively. So you want to make sure that you are doing that repetitively, because what this does is it begins to change the unconscious mind. So our unconscious mind is 90% of our brain. So that's a lot of our brain, right? So if I'm changing that thought and changing that thought, I am enough, I am enough, I am enough, right? But there's a whole lot going on underneath the surface where my unconscious mind is still saying, I'm not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not enough. I'm still going to behave from that place of I am not enough. And so that's kind of in that 90% of the brain playing in my mind. So we have all of that going on, but what you do with affirmations is you begin to change the tape. You begin to change the information that is playing in that 90% of the brain. Now, it takes a while. So affirmations are something that you want to do consistently, regularly, and it's not going to be something that you believe right now. You know, it's basically like a goal that you have, a thought goal that you have. So choosing something positive to say to yourself over and over and over that's going to challenge those negative thoughts. So I recommend coming up with 10 or so, figuring out what your primary core beliefs are that are really negative and not helpful to you, and writing out the opposite in a positive affirmation. You know, flipping that into a positive statement. And I can help you guys if you have one that you're like, I don't know how to flip this into a positive. Post it in the group and we will figure out how to write that in a positive way, in a higher vibrational way that we want to put out to the universe. And so I recommend having your list. And the best time of day is going to be at the beginning of your day and at the end of your day, right after you're waking up and right as you are tired and starting to fall asleep, because this is when we are in closer to a hypnotic state. This is when our unconscious mind is more malleable and more open to suggestion. And so if we can read through this list of affirmations 3 times or so, or 5 times, whatever you want to do, right before you go to sleep, and have it right there on your bedside table. And then when you wake up in the morning, one of the very first things that you do is you pull out these affirmations and you go through that when you're still kind of drowsy and sleepy. That's going to be a lot more powerful than when you do it any other time of the day. You can do it whenever you want. You know, some people, I've done affirmations when I was driving in my car, you know, so it's like whenever you can, wherever you can say those out loud. You can just say those in your mind. Some people find it to be very powerful to stand in front of a mirror and do those. For me, that always just feels a little goofy. I don't know. For me, like it makes me more uncomfortable or something. So I feel better just sitting there and saying those out loud, or saying them in my mind, depending on the situation, depending on how I'm feeling that day. I feel like they're effective, and you really want to find your style and your comfort within that as well. So I do recommend the affirmations so that you are changing slowly but surely the signal that you're putting out there, and those signals, those thoughts begin to go out and begin to manifest more positive things for you. It's helpful to act and speak as though you already have the things that you want in your life. So, you know, sometimes you'll find me, for example, when I'm speaking about my business, speaking about it as though it's more successful than what I'm experiencing right now in this moment. And that's because I'm working on that manifestation of that. And if I can say I have a thriving, successful business, and it's this, and it's this, and it's this, and I'm speaking about that, the universe doesn't know the difference, that that's not my reality. And so those things can begin to manifest for me. So sometimes it is helpful, you know, to speak in such a way that as though it's already happening, and to act as if it's already happening, to behave in such a way that I do have a thriving, successful business. You know, when Nicole, my business partner, moved away, we had a spare office, and my immediate reaction was, I got to fill that office. You know, I've got to pay the rent, and I've got to get somebody in there. And what I realized I really wanted at the end of the day was to use that space as a video studio. So I'm working on getting that all set up and set right now, and I have all of my equipment in there. But what I found is when I began to act as if I could pay the rent and that would be okay, different opportunities showed up that helped to cover the rent. You know, so I just said, okay, I'm going to just dive into this, and I'm just going to trust, and I'm just going to act as if it's not an issue, you know? And sometimes, like, it'll take a little time for the energy to catch up, so there might be some challenges, but, you know, when we can act as if, sometimes it can help to manifest things more quickly. So I really, really love that. I also think that one of the things that a lot of people miss when they're talking about law of attraction is this concept of gratitude. You know, I think that when we don't spend enough time in gratitude, we're not going to manifest all of the positive things that we want, or manifest them as quickly as we want. It's really important to return to gratitude as often as possible, and to stay in that energy as often as possible. And so sometimes it's really about, you know, we're saying act as if, live as if. So when you connect with that gratitude, you're connecting with joy, and that becomes a higher vibration, and then you can connect with higher vibrational things. And so when we can find our gratitude in no matter what the circumstances, it really can begin to shift your energy. So finding what you're grateful for, even if it's hard, even if it's been a tough day, how can we come back to gratitude? And I really like, one of my tools that I use for myself with gratitude is I like to connect with my gratitude at the beginning of the day, and I like to connect with my gratitude at the end of the day, just because it's like bookends of gratitude in my day. And I do try to be grateful and find the good all throughout the day, but at least I'm kind of holding myself accountable to connect with that at least twice a day. So what I do is, when I wake up in the morning, after I set my intentions and say a short prayer, and ask God how I can be of service that day, I think about the day ahead. And sometimes I have a pretty good sense of what my day looks like, and sometimes I don't. But I try to think about what I'm excited about in my day. What do I have coming up in my day that I'm excited about, or probably will feel good, or that I'm looking forward to? Or if for whatever reason I'm feeling more negative and I'm not connecting with things, I might just think about, what am I grateful for in this moment? I'm grateful for how comfortable my bed is, or whatever, you know? So just thinking about in that moment what I'm grateful for, or what I'm excited about in my day. And by doing that, we're also setting some powerful intentions and sending out some energy to allow those things that we're looking forward to be successful, to be enjoyable, to be fun for us, or good for us, or whatever. So I like to do that. And then at the very end of my day, I like to take a couple of minutes and just think about at least 3 things that I'm grateful for in my day. And I try to mix it up. I try not to do exactly the same thing every day. You know, I really try to think about, specifically today, what am I grateful for? What has happened for me? You know, who am I grateful for? Whatever. But just spending some time with that gratitude can really change your vibration and can change your life. So sorry guys, like the sun is shining through my blinds, but so you want to come back to gratitude as often as possible, and that will help to raise your vibration. And when you are at a higher vibration, you're going to feel better, and again, that signal that you're putting out is going to be more powerful. I really like, and I'll try to find it so I can share it, Abraham Hicks, I'm going to mention again, and what book is it in? I think it's in Ask and It's Given. They have their scale of emotions, and they suggest that our emotions are telling us about where we're at vibrationally, and what the kind of things that we're gonna pull into our experience. And they talk about, you know, you can't go from the energy of absolute despair and come up to the top of the list, which is like joy and total peace and all of that stuff, probably you're not going to jump right from one to the other. And it's this idea that we have to kind of take tiny steps up. It's like climbing a ladder. You know, we've got to go through these different emotions. We've got to move up to, you know, sadness, and then up to anger, and then up to boredom, and, you know, eventually climbing up this, it'll help us to get closer to that joy. So sometimes we have to slowly progress. And so sometimes it's really about just finding that next better thought. So you might not be able to connect with a really joyful, happy, beautiful thought. So find a better thought. Find the next best thought that you can come up with, because that will help you to move up this emotional scale, up this ladder towards connecting with a higher vibration. So I hope that that makes sense. But allowing yourself to do that, and just asking yourself, what's a better thought that I could be having? What could I be focusing on right now that is at least better than the signal, than the thought that I just put out there? So asking yourself that. I also think, you know, when people, if you've not done a lot of stuff with the law of attraction so far, we get really excited and we manifest some things, and then we can get discouraged when the bigger stuff or certain things that we're feeling a little more blocked with don't manifest right away. And we all have our areas that we're more blocked with. And so I think part of it is going to be about patience and really trying to trust in whatever the higher power is for you, God, the universe, and trusting that that's going to come in its own divine timing, and trusting that as you continue to do your work and on yourself and your life's work and things like that, that can eventually manifest. So letting your intuition also guide you through the process. If you are feeling as though you're blocked and your intuition is saying, this is something that you need to work on it, because that might be the thing that you need to do to help you to manifest those things that you're wanting. So I think that it takes patience. I think that it takes time sometimes for us to manifest those things. It takes working on our vibration. It takes maintaining a certain vibration level of our vibration to manifest certain things. And so we want to not expect it all to arrive into our lap immediately right now. We are powerful creators, and so technically it could, you know, technically we could do that, but I think that we've been programmed for so long, you know, to believe certain things, and that is impacting us as well. We have all of that running around again in that 90% of the brain that is the unconscious, and so there's going to be some work that we have to do as human beings that will help us to work through these energetic blocks and things like that, so that we can manifest those things. I also think that it's really important to talk about allowing when it comes to the law of attraction. So allowing is basically this concept of the better you feel, the better things that you're going to bring in. And I keep coming back to this idea. So that feels really important. Some of you guys must really need this message. So you don't have to worry tons about it. Yes, do the manifestation writing. Set intentions, put intentions out there. But I think that there's great value in setting it and forgetting it a little bit. You know, so set your intentions, do some manifestation writing, focus on the things that you want to manifest and put energy into that. But I also think we want to then step away and we want to work on allowing. We want to work on doing things like self-care, things that feel really good, that make us feel really good. All of those things that just help us to feel like our vibration is higher. Again, being mindful of our energetic diet that we are consuming so that we can connect with that stuff. And this is where those emotions, like I said, are going to be our guide. And so if you are finding yourself feeling really angry, that's a really different energy than... That's actually a higher vibrational energy than, for example, depression. you know? So I can remember when I was doing counseling that was something that I sort of intuitively and naturally did with people, was to help them to connect with their anger, especially if they were coming in and they were talking about a lot of depression, because it was kind of like we were working on moving up this scale, and then they would connect with their anger. And you also don't want to stay there, because that's not high vibrational either, but you want to keep working your way up the scale so that you are in a better state of allowing. So that's exciting stuff. And I want to talk about energy of love and fear. Okay, so it's kind of my belief. I mean, there's all kinds of energy, right? But it all boils down to, if you really, really think about it, to basically there are two energies. There is the energy of love, that to me is God and light and all of these things, and then there is the energy of fear. And so we have both of these things that we experience, and ideally we want to begin to learn to live a life that is in the light. We want to begin to learn to be love, to express love, to receive love. And I'm not talking about romantic love. We'll dive into this a little bit. But this energy of love, I always say, I wrote in here, be like Jesus in the notes, because, you know, kind of the energy that in human form Jesus really encompassed is just being love, you know, and expressing that love. And yes, he was still human as well, but I think that he did a really great job of expressing that love and being that love in human form. And that's ideally what we want to do. And so this is not necessarily romantic love. This is just that energy of, I accept and value all that exists around me. I see God in everyone and everything. And this is a really beautiful energy, whereas the fear energy is different. The fear energy is the other side of that, and that can drive us a lot. So you want to pay attention. How much is fear driving your car? You know, how much is fear holding you back? How much is it in your head? And starting to be really mindful of that, because when we are in fear, we cannot be in the energy of love. You can be in one or you can be in the other. And so you want to allow yourself to quickly come back to this energy of love as quickly as you possibly can, to step out of that fear. So I'm reading, or I have read, some of my favorite books right now are the Paul Selig books. I really highly recommend them, but specifically the Book of Love and Creation. And so this is all about, if you're wanting to dive in more, encompassing and learning to be the energy of love. And so in it, he talks about that, you know, he uses a river as a metaphor, and he says, when we are in flow is another word for love. When we are in flow, when we're in this energy of love, it's like being carried with the current to the ocean. And the ocean is where all of those things that we want to manifest exist, where all of this energy that we want to have in our experience exists. And so what we do as human beings is we get into the river and we find our flow, but then we take a step out when we go to the riverbank, and we're doing this all the time, constantly, consistently. And when I started to be aware of this, I had no idea. I've done a lot of work on this stuff. I had no idea how often I go to the riverbank. So the riverbank is stuff like stepping out of the river. It's stuff like trying to control things, trying to control your experience, trying to control other people. Control it is going to be a fear-based energy. It's going to be a riverbank energy. When we step into the riverbank, it's when we start to worry about stuff, or when we stop trusting that God and the universe always has our back, is always looking out for us. Or when we go into more of a negative way of thinking, when we allow our fear to be in charge of us. So maybe we want to do something really bad, but that fear is so strong that it holds us back. Every time that we allow our fear to hold us back from doing the things that we intuitively feel that we're called to do, we are stepping up onto that riverbank. Every time we speak negatively about ourselves or about other people, or we sit in that heavy, yucky, negative energy, we are on the riverbank. And sometimes we need to do that, because sometimes we need to do this emotional work, and we need to take a look at our shadows, and we need to do that shadow work. And but the more that we can do that with love, the more that we can kind of take it and take a step back and take a look at that and go, okay, that's interesting. I'm learning something interesting about myself. The more that we can almost take a step back from the emotion of it and take a look at maybe those negative things that are showing up for us, and try to release the emotion and take a look at what's happening and going, okay, so this is happening for me right now, and I'm having these feelings, and why do I feel like I'm having these feelings? And oh, that's interesting. This is helping me to learn more about myself, and like just kind of dissecting it and exploring it and understanding it. And what that can tend to do is it can tend to take that fear's power away, which is really, really cool when you can just sit with it, when you can allow yourself to visit whatever's coming up for you that doesn't feel good, that doesn't feel great. And then at the end of that, you choose to try to release that, and you choose to bring yourself back into flow, to bring yourself back into this energy of love. And this is a very, very powerful thing. And it's hard for me to describe because it takes practice, and this is certainly nothing that I have perfected, and something I'm always working on, and we're always working on. But the more that you can kind of take that mindful step back and look at it with curiosity when you get really emotional, or when you get really panicked, one of the ways to quickly shut down a panic attack is to take a step back and look at the situation with curiosity. What am I feeling in my body right now? What's happening? What sensations do I feel? What thoughts am I having right now? That's interesting. Okay, that tells me about that. That's kind of an unrealistic thought. That's not really what's going on. And beginning to challenge that thinking. And so this can become a tool to get to know yourself and to help to diffuse the strength of the emotions, because what you're doing is you are looking that fear in the eye. You are going head to head with it, and you're not allowing it to be in charge of you. You are not stepping into that riverbank, or you're not trying to swim against the current of the river, right? Because we can do that sometimes too. So thinking about, how can I flow? But before you can get back into the flow, sometimes you do have to do some of that work through the emotions and let yourself be mindful through that. So that can be helpful. And think about those things that maybe you step onto the riverbank and you camp out for a while on, how does that word it? There's this post that people share sometimes, this meme that people share, and it says, like, was it a bad day, or was it a bad 5 minutes that you just milked the entire day? I mean, how many times do we do that? That makes me laugh because I've done that so many times myself. So how many times do we do that and let one thing just completely ruin our day? And how different would it be if we say, you know what, that sucked, and I acknowledge that, and I'm choosing to step back into flow. I'm choosing to release that because focusing on that isn't serving me right now. I'm going to learn what I need to learn from it, or get what I need to get from it, and then I'm going to step back into flow. I'm going to choose to release it and to not perseverate on that, to not put my energy and attention on that, because when we can change that quickly, we can change our vibration more quickly, and the rest of the day can go better. Have you ever had a day where it's like one thing after another, after another, after another just went wrong? A lot of times that is because we are spending too much time focusing on what went wrong. And the quicker that we can kind of in our mind decide, you know what, I'm going to have a better day, and I'm committed to that, the better. Now, some days when we get into a lower vibrational space and we're really having a hard time with that, one of the only things that I find really can work is to go to bed, because when we go to sleep, that can reset us. And so you can wake up the next day and your vibration can be a bit higher, and you can work on that from there. So, sometimes if you just get into that space, sometimes going to bed is actually one of the best things that you can do. If you're trying to do high vibrational things and it's just not working, or you're trying to work on your thoughts and just nothing's working, maybe going to bed a little bit early that night if you can, and setting the intention that you're going to wake up with your vibration higher the next day. Now, one of the things that Abraham Hicks also says is that first 17 seconds of our day is the most important time for setting our vibration, for setting the vibrational tone for our day. So if you're waking up and your very first thought is, oh shit, my alarm's going off and I don't want to go to work, and and we go into this negative space immediately, you are going to pull in more thoughts that are similar to that. And then you have those thoughts, and those pull in more thoughts of that. So you really want to be mindful of those first thoughts that you're having in the day. And it takes a little practice because we're kind of on autopilot, right? And if that's your habit every day to have those types of thoughts, it's going to take a little bit of time to go, oh crap, I just did that again and I need to change that. So for me, I really like to use the what I'm excited about as the very first part of my day. What I first start with is a prayer, and I just say, thank you, God, for letting me live another day, and please show me how I can live and be of service for you today. And so I really love the energy of that. So for me, that just connects and it begins a positive momentum of positive energy in the morning. And then I like to expand upon that and start to focus on those 3 things that I'm excited about. So this is kind of how I begin to get a positive momentum going from the minute that I'm waking up. You could also choose to do something like, you could choose to do something like a meditation, where maybe my light meditation that I shared in the group, because that's going to be a high vibrational activity as well. So you might immediately upon waking do that, whether you listen to that recording or you do that yourself, but doing something that's going to be high vibrational immediately upon waking, whether that's thoughts, whether that's an activity, because this is going to help you with your vibration as well. So just being mindful of where your energy is. I think that that's the most important point of everything that I have to say. What are you putting your energy into? Who are you spending time with? What are you allowing into your energy field? What are you putting, your time and your energy into? And what is that doing for you? Does that feel good? Does that feel bad? So I really encourage you to take stock in that, to be mindful of, as you're going about your day the next week or so, to just kind of trying to be mindful. So when you're having interactions with people, does this feel high vibrational? Does this not? Is this somebody that I want to put a lot of my time and energy into or not? Is this an activity that I want to put a lot of my time and energy into or not? And just being mindful of that. Is this a food that makes my body feel good? That makes my body feel like I'm connected with my light? There are some foods that just make you feel bad, and these tend to be the foods that our brain tends to crave, that are full of sugar and all that stuff. And these are great sometimes, but we want to make sure that we are also choosing those foods that are going to be higher vibrational, that feel good to the body, that help our body to be fueled, that treat our body like the temple that it is. Drinking water is super, super important. I really think that it's helpful to bless your food and to bless your water before you put that into your body, because it's an opportunity to raise the vibration of those foods and that water before you put that into your body. So that's a pretty powerful experience as well when you can start to do that. So just all day, every day, this is what I want you guys to do, is to start to just be aware of that, so you know what areas of your life you're going to need to start changing, because you're going to be impacted by those things. Do I need to change my routine? Do I need to change some of the people that I'm hanging around with? Do I need to change the spaces that I'm going into? I don't know about you guys, I always talk about this, but Walmart for me feels awful, and so I don't go in. It's very, very rare, once or twice a year, truly, that is how often I go in there, because it feels so low vibrational to me. And so thinking about changes you might make to that, maybe you choose to go to Target instead, because the energy of that feels better. Every once in a while I have to go in there, but I really do avoid it. And so those little tiny things like that maybe are just a part of your routine, when you start to be mindful of that, when you start to shift that, it can really change your life. It can shift a lot of things for you very, very quickly. I'll warn you that as you're working on this, you will find that it's going to change your life. And sometimes that means that people or circumstances or situations get cleared out of your life, whether you walk away from that or they naturally get cleared for you, because they're no longer a vibrational match. So understand that as you dive into this stuff, that will happen, but this is for the best, you guys. Like, this is for your highest and best good, and this is for, in the long run, you being better. This is for, you know, like, this is when we try to make changes in our life, or changes happen for us, the natural human response is fear. So again, this is about challenging fear. This is about, okay, I'm really scared to make this change in my life, but I also know that it's for my best, or I also know that it doesn't feel like it belongs in my life anymore, and making that change. Because I think the more that we can look our fear in the eye and do it anyway, the better. There's in counseling, when I was doing counseling, when people would have, for example, a phobia or a big fear, we would work on doing a progression into them not avoiding the fear, because the more that you avoid fear, the more that you feed it. So if you're afraid to do something and you avoid it and you avoid it and you avoid it, you are going to create a bigger fear around that. So for me, one of my natural fears is actually public speaking. And so it's so funny because I understood even as a kid that I was going to need to challenge that. And so when I was in 7th grade, I ran for student council, not because I wanted to be on student council, but because I knew I had to give a speech. And so it was kind of like this decision of, I can either allow this fear to be in control of me, or I can be in charge of it. And I understood even in 7th grade that if I could do that, and if I could have that experience, that my fear would be less the next time that I went to speak. Now, this is something that I had to do progressively throughout my life. And so I can remember I signed up to sell Pampered Chef, so that I would have to speak and teach in front of people. And because it was, again, like, I'm not going to let this be in charge of me. I'm going to be in charge of this. And it just was a very, very strong fear for me. And then when we planned our very first Clarity Connects motivational speaking event, I was absolutely terrified. In fact, my whole speech was about how scared I was to be up there. I called it Slaying Your Fear Dragons. And so I talked about that, and I acknowledged that, and went through how, like, this is how I am gaining control over the fear in my life, is I'm doing it. And you might have to kind of take small steps, you know. So I started with making some videos with Nicole, or, you know, selling Pampered Chef. And when I used to work at the counseling agency, I would volunteer when they needed somebody to go do a workshop or something. And it wasn't because I was comfortable. I would actually be sick to my stomach for weeks before I had to do it. That was how bad it was for me back then. But I would do it so that I could force myself, because I understood that every single time I did it, I gained more control over my fear, and the fear gained less power over me. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. And then this is our 5th year for Clarity Connects, and by now, in the past, I would have been obsessing about my speech. I would have been nervous. I would have been, like, sometimes it was to the point that I would vomit. That's how nervous I would get. And I have my speech partially written, but, I'm not stressed about it. And I'm actually looking forward to the event. And so I've kind of had to force that through the years. And so I give this example because I want you to think about the ways that fear is holding you back, and how can you start to take that on? How can you start to challenge that? And you might have to break that up into smaller steps. It might feel like too big of a thing to, like, take that on head on, but maybe you can break that down into smaller steps, like I did with the Pampered Chef. Like, that didn't feel as scary as stepping on a stage for Clarity Connects in front of 500 people. That's really different. And so I worked up to that. And every time I've had that experience, the fear has been lessened. So I would love to hear from you guys, maybe a fear that you would like to take head on this week. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to try? And I think a huge way that we can be successful at life is to be afraid, but to do it anyway. I think that that's how we find our power. That's how we see how powerful we really are, because our brain will tell us that we are afraid. Our brain will tell us that we can't do it. But if we can do it anyway, when we're intuitively called to do that, this is where our power lies. So I really, really love that. So that is class for today, guys. I'll be posting the handouts to go along with class so that you can take a look at those and remember some of the points that I had. It'll break down the law of attraction a little bit more in those handouts, so I'll make sure that I share those. I'm going to be posting every day. Make sure you guys are posting if you would like to share experiences, share your magic. I love reading about your magic. Responding if you would like to respond to the posts, if you know, or even responding privately to yourself. Maybe you write that in a notebook. What is the question that I asked, or what are the cards that I posted, and what was your response to it? So I would love to see you guys just sharing that stuff and experiencing that stuff. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know where you're feeling stuck so far, or what questions you guys have for me. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys next week with our next class. Thank you.